Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. Madeline Soto. Madeline Soto. You know, when I was preparing for this video, I was thinking about her, and I was thinking there will be no more photos of Madeline. The next photos that were taken of Madeline after her birthday party, on her 13th birthday party, the next photos that were taken of Madeline were crime scene photos. I mean, how disgusting is that? Madeline is forever 13. There will never be more photos of her. She will not graduate from high school. She will not grow up to get married, to have children, to have a normal life that those of us that are lucky enough, I mean, I don't know what a normal life is. Of course, lives are varied, aren't they? And interesting. But you know what I mean. The normal things that people expect, which is to get a job, have a career, graduate, whatever floats your boat. It's not everyone's thing to go into education. Some people choose a different track in life. Madeline never got a choice in any track of life. 13 years old. And after years of abuse from Stephan Stearns, probably 5 or 6 years of abuse, Madeline was brutally murdered. I say brutally, we don't really know what happened. Personally, I believe that Stephan Stearns drugged Madeline and she did not wake up that time. That's what I think happened. I think he drugged her. I don't think he meant to kill her. Not that that makes it any better. I don't think he meant to kill her. He was drugging her like he always did. A lot of the videos and photos that were taken of Madeline, she appeared to be sleeping because she was probably unconscious, having been drugged. And I think what Stephan maybe did that final time was give her too many drugs. He went off to wait for it to work, and then he came back and she was deceased. That's my opinion. We'll find out one day. When the trial comes for the murder of Madeline, of course. Now, I was preparing this video for this morning anyway. I was always planning on doing a video this morning because his trial he's got 2 lots of counts against him. First of all, of course, Stephan was charged with all these many counts of abuse of a child. I'm going to read out the counts that he had against him. And that trial was supposed to be starting next week. So the prosecution elected, because he's also charged now, it took quite a while to get to the murder charge. He is also charged with the murder of Madeline now. But that trial won't be till later on in the year, in the autumn, will it? So, but this trial for the abuse of Madeline was due to start next week, but it's not going to start. Because Stephan, he was sorry, I'm just trying to sort my bun's all over the place. It's all skew with. He tried, didn't he? He and his defence team, the usual lovely defence team that love defending these twonks. What? Some things are just not worth the money. I know someone's got to defend them. Somebody's got to defend these twonks because everyone has the right to a defence. I understand that. And some people need a defence. Maybe they are innocent. Oh, I just don't know how they do it with these people when there's so much evidence. But anyway, his defence team. So the whole case against Stephan for the RAPE and the S abuse, etc. The whole case is based on what the police found on his phone. And they were trying, of course, to have that evidence excluded. And if that evidence off his phone was excluded, there would have been no case. There just wouldn't be any case because Madeline's deceased. She can't testify. Nobody else saw it happen. So it's all, if Stephan says it didn't happen, there's no evidence apart from the photos and videos. So if he could have managed to have those removed from the evidence, really, he would have been found innocent. He had to be, really, because there's no evidence without them. Anyway, that failed, didn't it? That failed. That evidence, thank God, because remember, this is Stephan Stern's factory reset ×2. We know from the Erin Patterson case or for other cases, when somebody factory resets their phone, it's not a good sign, is it? It's not a good sign. Someone factory resets their phone, they're trying to hide something. When have you ever factory reset your phone? The only time you would factory reset your phone is if you had a new phone and it had, somebody, when I say new, a second-hand phone, or if you were giving your phone to someone else to use. I don't, apart from that, when would you factory reset your phone? So, well, when you're trying to hide evidence, like Erin Patterson and like Stephan Stearns. So that's two similarities between Erin and Stephan, isn't it? People trying to, thickos. He's another one. Thought he was intelligent, didn't he? Thought he was intelligent, like Erin thought she was intelligent, and then actually absolute thicko. So he tried to do it thinking that he could get away with it, that would mean the police wouldn't find anything. Of course, they did find everything, and that was the end of that. Anyway, his trial is supposed to start next week, but it looks like there's not going to be a trial. It's like a Brian Koberger moment. It seems like Stephan is going to plead guilty. And really, what else can he plead? If he couldn't remove that evidence, what else can he plead but guilty? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So first of all, I want to say thank you to all of you that have liked, subscribed. Thank you to those of you who are members. Special thank you, of course. Thank you to those of you who've bought me Ko-fis. Got a frog in my throat. Sent super stickers. PayPal me, email me. Oh, excuse me. I've not been very good with my emails. I've not been answering them. I will tomorrow. Tomorrow, definitely. Gosh. Went down the wrong way. Thank you to everybody who contributes in a positive way to my channel. Oh, gosh, I'm coughing like mad. I can feel a tickle in the back of my throat. I'm going to take my banner off. That's what I'm going to do. Now, for those of you who know, I'm in Spain. My name's Vicky Maria. I talk generally about true crime, but I talk about a lot of different things. I'm based in Spain, mainland Spain. It is a very cool 28 degrees. I mean, that is so cool compared to how it has been. It's breezy. It's, you almost feel human and you can think properly because we have had 40-degree temperatures leading up to today. So it's so much nicer to be cooler. When I say cooler, a little bit cooler. So, hi to you lovely lurkers. Thank you for watching. I know a lot of people watch. They don't necessarily want to join in the chat. They just like watching the lives. Thank you. Hello, loathsome lurkers. I'm praying for you as always. Hello, replay crew. Thank you so much for watching. And now I'm going to come into the chat and see those of you who are brave enough to come into the chat. A little bit quiet today, but I think that's probably because I only just put up this video. Hi Geordie Lass, hi Sheep Farming, hi Ange. Yeah, well, do you know what, Ange? He'll escape Ange says, he'll escape the shame and wrath of people that have been waiting to see full justice. And I agree. But there's another part of me that's thinking, you know, for Madeline's sake, because if this comes to a trial, those photos and videos are going to have to be shown in the trial. And Madeline is being, you know, abused in those videos. So, but I tell you what, don't you worry, because you know I've got the video, the full video of Stephan Stearns when he was arrested, having his button mushroom examined and photos taken of it. I've never shown the full video. I've never shown the embarrassing bits for him, but I'm going to show him. I'm going to show him. You know, if I've had to suffer looking at his button mushroom, why shouldn't everybody else? But I want him to be embarrassed. That's how it feels to me. I want him to be shown up like he, you know, had no respect for Madeline, took those videos of her. So I agree with what you're saying 100%. But the thing is, I must say, I'm glad for Madeline's sake and her family, of course, that those videos, if he does plead guilty and it doesn't come to a trial, which it's looking like, he's going to take a plea deal. That's what he's going to take, because he's got no option really, because he's, you know, after the defence could not, after the judge decided that no, he's not going to remove those videos from evidence, really, where else has Stephan Stearns got to go? You know, he's plainly guilty. Plainly guilty. He had thousands, didn't he, of images? But there was 600 at least of Madeline. And he's been charged with 60 counts. So, you know, he was never going to get away with it. So I'm glad in a way, but I know exactly what you're saying, because it's like you want him to be shown up for what he is. But the problem is him being shown up for what he is means that Madeline gets sort of, you know, exposed to the world, literally. And that, you know, doesn't seem nice for her, does it, for her memory? Anyway, now if he takes a plea deal, there's a lot of plea deals that he can take, because this what he's accused for are capital offences in themselves. I mean, Stephan Stearns, he's likely to get the death penalty again unless he takes a plea deal, because he's got the murder trial coming up later. We've just seen Brian Kohberger take a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. And you know, the more I think about that, it's starting to annoy me, actually. At first I was sort of relieved, because again, like, the victims and their families won't have to go through a trial. But the more you think about it, you think, yeah, because he doesn't want the death penalty, because he's a coward. He's only good at killing other people. You know, he's frightened of death himself. But also because he'll be in the general population then, won't he? And he'll be Mr. King Dick in the, you know, he'll be like, because he's a criminology student, he'll be showing off, he'll be, you know, trying to take on this role of being the person that helps people with their appeals and this, that and the other. And that's irritating, that he should have any kudos, if you like. You know, he should be on death row, but anyway, he's not. So that's Brian Kohberger. He's taken a plea deal, and it's good in some ways for the families and bad in other ways, because again, the families don't really want to see their loved ones paraded on, you know, mainstream media, social media, what happened to them, etc. And I've been watching a lot about what the family are saying about it all. And they're sort of, again, it's like this double-edged sword for them. Because I think they're glad he's admitted that he's guilty. But what they're raging about is they still don't know what happened exactly to their loved ones. And they've got to prepare victim impact statements. But as they were saying, they don't know really the full impact because they don't know the full story. They don't know any more than we do. That just doesn't seem right, does it? So they're trying to write their victim impact statements before Brian is sentenced. But they don't really know the full details. So how do you write your victim impact statement? Oh, you've lost your loved one. That's but you don't know the full circumstances. You know, it's coming out now that were they gagged, or at least one of them was gagged. You know, the family need to know the full circumstances so they can incorporate that in their victim impact statement. Now, as far as Stephan Stearns is concerned, as I was saying, I think I've got this combination of good news and bad news. Hi, sheep farming. Sorry, I didn't know if I said hello to you. I think I did. Combination of good news and bad news. Good that the trial's not happening, but bad in a way that he's sort of escaping the shame that he deserves, as you say. Now, this is the first trial. So he's going to go into the murder trial as a convicted sex offender, isn't he? So if he does do this plea deal on Monday, which everybody's expecting him to do, I'm going to show you some news items. Seems very likely that he's going to plead guilty and take the plea deal, whatever it is. Then when he goes into his second trial for the murder of Madeleine, he's going to go into it as a convicted sex offender, isn't he? So now, how they're going to find a jury that doesn't know that, I don't know. I mean, you know, there are people who don't know about cases. I mean, not everybody takes an interest in true crime. You know, a jury will be selected and probably some of them don't know anything about Stephan Stearns. But it's important that he gets a fair trial, just for the reason is you don't want him to come back and, you know, claim that he didn't get fair trial. So it's a very tricky situation, isn't it? You know, but I mean, I was all ready to cover that case next week. But anyway, it looks like it's not going to happen because I don't think there's going to be a case apart from him standing up, pleading guilty. So, oh, let's have a look first of all at the charges, or some of the charges. I mean, there's so many charges against Stephan. So this is from the police website. This was in 2024. 60 new charges filed against Stephan Stearns. 8 counts of sexual battery on a child under 12. Under 12! For fuck's sake. 5 counts of sex battery with a child between 12 and 18. Now, of course, Madeleine only got to 13, so those 5 counts will have been between 12 and 13 because she was dead just after her 13th birthday. 7 counts of lewd and lascivious molestation, 40 counts of unlawful possession of materials depicting sex performance by a child, 10 or more images. Now, let's not forget these were extra charges filed. How many have been filed in total? I mean, this man is beyond the pale. You know, there's twonks and there's twonks like Stephan. You know, he is, well, he's certainly special. Imagine being special in that way, that you were so special you had all these horrible charges against you. Let's see. I just want a summary of... I think he had over 600 images on his... I mean, I have got all the charges somewhere, but it's just finding them. We've got the 16 new charges, but what were the old charges? Let's have a look. Those were the new charges. I mean, they just, right. Let's have a look at this. So these are the new charges. I mean, the thing is, you don't have to read them all out, really. You just have to look at this and the list, the litany of charges. These are only the new ones. I mean, you know, his parents who are sort of, you know, protecting him, if you like, or saying, or anyone who's trying to protect him or saying, oh, he's not that bad, really. Look at that. Hey, Madeline. And, you know, when I look at these photos of Madeline, bless her, I dreamt about Madeline last night, bless her. That's it. These are the last photos. There's no more photos going to be taken of Madeline Soto. She's frozen in time at 13 years old. She'll never go to school again. As I say, she won't have a boyfriend. She won't end up getting married. She won't have children. You know, just unbelievable. Let's have a look what the attorney had to say.
The prime suspect in the Maddie Soto case is Stephan Stearns, now facing 60 new charges. Court documents show that his alleged crimes date back to June of 2019. Those charges include 13 counts of sexual battery on a child, 7 counts of molestation, and 40 counts of unlawful possession of material depicting sexual performance of a child. Investigators say those images were found on his phone during their search for Maddie. So far, no murder charges have been filed. Stearns is expected to be in court next month.
Now, of course, murder charges have been filed now, but at the time of this video, do you remember, it took them quite a long time to come up with the murder charges. Not sure why, but anyway, it did.
Orlando defense attorney and good friend to Good Day Orlando, Mark James, is joining us live this morning to talk more about this case. Good to see you, Mark. How are you?
Good morning, Amy. It's always good to talk to you.
So, Mark, these new charges, what is your reaction to them? 60 new charges, that's a lot. And some of the charges are we went through the affidavit, are so despicable and hard to read that we weren't even able to tell everybody, you know, what exactly was in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of navigation that law enforcement is doing in this case. We now in Florida have a law basically which says that you can get the death penalty for sexual battery on a child who's under 12, 11 or younger. And so now it appears that there's allegations that Madeline was sexually abused when she was that age. So,
yeah, the thing is, just for these charges, Stephan could get the death penalty. And that's why he's probably going to plead guilty. He doesn't want the death penalty because he's a coward. What he did to Madeline, that's okay when you're doing it to somebody else, but he doesn't want anything done to him.
We now have in Lake County, for the first time in Florida, a prosecutor seeking the death penalty for somebody else who was accused of sexually battering a child 11 or younger. And so I think that, but that has not gone up to the United States Supreme Court yet. So I think that the state in this case wants to assure that they can get the death penalty on the murder case, which there's no reason to push that. simply because they've got him held on no bond. So they're taking their time to make sure that they can do everything that they need to do in order to get the death penalty, which seems pretty obvious that they're going to be seeking.
Mark, some people were surprised that there was nothing as far as Madeleine's death in any of these new charges, right? No murder charge. And at this point, we still don't even really know how she died. Is that all just part of this process? What can we expect?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Now, of course, now it's said that Madeleine died from strangulation. But again, I think until it comes out in the actual court case, so it's like waiting again. I mean, it's bad enough for us. We've been waiting for this case to get sorted. But imagine Madeleine's family. Now, you know, I know everyone's very down on Jennifer Soto. I personally am not one of those people. I'm not going to make video after video about Jennifer. You know, Stephan Stearns did this to Madeleine. Stephan Stearns killed Madeleine. And Jen, yeah, she is a crap mother in some senses. I still think that probably Stephan Stearns was drugging Jen anyway. He saw Jen coming. She was just like, you know, totally, you know, she wasn't as aware as she should have been. I agree with that completely. But to me, Jen is the one that's suffering that for the rest of her life, not me. You know, I get up in the morning, my life's the same. Jen gets up every morning knowing her daughter's dead. And not only that, she has got some responsibility in it. But I'm not going to, you know, for me, I mean, people can say what they like in chat. That's fine. You know, people are able to say their own opinions as long as they're not too disrespectful to her. You know, but I do think that what you have to remember is Jennifer Soto has lost her daughter. And yeah, she'll be suffering enough knowing not only her daughter's dead and was, you know, abused all those years, but she didn't notice and she didn't help, and she's got that's her own karma that she's got to deal with. And although she might be a crap mum, or she might be this, or she might be that, she's not a killer or an abuser, in my opinion. So that's for her own karma to sort out. I'm not going to be here every day complaining about her. To me, it's him. He's the twonk.
There's just no reason to rush it. If you're going to go for premeditation on first-degree murder capital and then seek the death penalty, then they've got him held on a no bond on horrific charges on the sexual molestation and sexual battery of a child under 11. So since there's no witnesses to the murder, they're going to have to really piece together to show that it was premeditated, because premeditation is a necessary requirement of first-degree murder. So therefore, they need to and are taking their time to make sure they've got everything lined up so they can seek the death penalty. Because remember, if they don't seek the death penalty on the homicide,
I wonder how it works out if they, because I don't know that he intended to kill her. I literally, but I think he intended to do harm to her. You know, this reminds me a bit of Erin Patterson. I'm not certain that Erin Patterson in the mushroom murder trial meant to kill those people, but she meant to do them harm. I think what Stephan maybe meant to do was drug Madeleine again, like he'd done a million times. And then he just maybe went too far, but then there's talk that she was strangled, so I don't know how that works. Maybe he went too far with that. Maybe he'd done that on many occasions. That's something that we will not find out until the trial.
Case. And the United States Supreme Court ultimately says that it's unconstitutional to be seeking death on a sexual battery of a child, and that's going to be tested. Then they're left without the death penalty. So right now they've got him held in jail on no bond, safe place for the state to have him kept while they work their homicide case and make sure that they've got their best case before they go ahead and bring the charges. There's just no urgency to bring those charges at this minute.
Mark, what about the potential for charges for other people who may have been involved or may have known something? Because I think a lot of people are having a hard time understanding how no one else around this child would have known that she was being abused, especially if it had been going on for several years.
And it's a logical thought. However, I've seen too many cases.
You know, manipulators, abusers like Stephan, there's loads of them. He's not the only one. There'll be loads of Madeleines out there. And, you know, the perpetrators, people say, oh, they were a lovely person, lovely guy or woman. There's loads of people out there don't know that their child is being abused. I don't see why people can't see that. It's not just Stephan, it's not just Jen. It's probably all over the world as well. It's not just America, it's in all countries probably. You know, abuse. People who abuse, like Stephan, they're clever. He didn't only manipulate Jen. He manipulated Madeleine's family. Her father thought he was great. They were big pals. You know, so Stephan manipulated everyone. He is a good manipulator. And Jen is a prime target for manipulators because she's drugged out of her head half the time. I don't mean on, you know, on legal drugs. And he was encouraging that. Anyway, that's not the purpose of this video.
In my career where these type of things happen and everybody else around simply doesn't know. On the other hand, there's oftentimes a blind eye and people simply enable the perpetrator and they look the other way, or they simply, because of a massively codependent, sick, dysfunctional relationship, just look away while the abuse is going on. I think that's something that clearly law enforcement is looking at. They want to go ahead and look at all phone records. They want to find out where, what, why, and that some of these instances occurred and who knew or should have known. Might that be the mother? Might that be other relatives, family, friends, or otherwise? And again, there's just no urgency. There's no statute of limitations that's going to attach to hypothetically a mother or anybody else. So they're not taking their time, but they're moving forward as they appropriately need to. These are not easy cases, and when you're seeking death, which is ultimately where I think this is going, you want to make sure that you've done it right because you are talking about taking the life of a citizen. Yeah. And so you should have your very best going forward if you're going to prosecute a case such as this.
Mark, I want to talk about maybe one of the more interesting parts of this case, which is that Stephan Stearns allegedly did a factory reset on his phone the morning that Madeleine disappeared, or that authorities thought she disappeared. But yet they were still able to find all of this evidence on that phone. As a criminal defense attorney, I imagine that's something that you guys look at very closely.
Yeah, this is a different age, a different era. Nothing's going to go away. If you bring in good forensic experts, you're going to almost always be able to capture everything. And the government uses, or the state uses, all the resources, and the government has at its disposal. So you're not going to get rid of anything. And you know, everything from cell tower checks to geo targeting to those that are permanently embedded. It's almost impossible. And then it's also an indication, it can be an indication of guilt when somebody tries to erase or get rid of something and go outside their normal pattern. It suggests.
I mean, it's, this guy, Stephan Stearns, he's as guilty as anything. You couldn't get any more guilty. I mean, he's got no chance. He's a bit, he's a little bit like the Brian Koberger case, isn't it? There's so much evidence against him. He's got no chance of being found not guilty. So hopefully he will do the same in the murder trial. Just admit that he's guilty, you know, and save people. That awful, you know, going through the whole thing, you know, and Madeleine's family having to hear, you know, what the horrible things that happened to her. And not only Jen, you know, because none of the family realised what was happening to Madeleine. Could you imagine that if tomorrow your sister, your auntie, your daughter, you know, with a partner who you thought was brilliant, you know, oh, he's great, he's lovely, blah, de, blah, de, blah. And then suddenly all this comes out. You'd be like, what? Why didn't I see it? Why? But, you know, it happens every day. And lots of people don't see it because manipulators like Stephan Stearns They're really good at it. Stephan he puts himself over as the victim, doesn't he? I never, to me, when he was talking to his parents on those jail calls that we've looked at, and they were telling him about somebody who'd made some accusation against him, and he went all prissy, Oh, don't they realise that that's slander? Like as if he'd never committed a crime or done anything wrong in his whole life. He's prissy. He's like, oh, I would never do anything wrong. In the meantime, he's abusing Madeleine, for years. It's disgusting. He's a disgusting man. But you know what? There's a lot of them out there, and you wouldn't even know if you had a Stephan Stearns in your life. Not in your life maybe, but in your daughter's life, your mother's life, your sister's life, your auntie's life, you wouldn't know. You'd probably only meet him at family parties and think, oh, he's a really nice guy.
A guilty motive and an effort to hide that which was otherwise there. So those all only end up hurting. And I think that for people to think they're going to erase something just doesn't happen. Usually what happens in child pornography cases, the government comes in, state comes in with a search warrant, they seize the asset, and then they send it to their forensic experts. It can take a few weeks to get the results back, but almost always, I would be tempted to say always, but almost always, they're going to capture that which is on the computer.
All right. Wow. It is a very interesting case, and we so appreciate you taking the time to be an expert for us this morning. Orlando defense attorney Mark James. Thank you, Mark. Good to see you.
Same to you, as always.
Okay, so now we're going to see. The thing is, Gina, I understand what you're saying, but Jenna's not been charged with anything.
Welcome back, 816.
She's not been charged with anything. So, I won't talk about her in that way unless she gets charged with something, because it's not fair.
Jasmine, thank you so much for being with us here this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
I wouldn't want someone talking about me that way when there was no evidence. There is no evidence. She hasn't been charged. But I appreciate your point of view, and you're not the only one. A lot of people agree with you. But at the end of the day, the police haven't arrested her. I personally don't think Jenna had anything to do with it, apart from being a bit thick. That's my opinion. And she let Madeleine down. I'm not saying she didn't, but I don't think she was complicit. And there is no evidence to say she's complicit. But we'll see if there is. It'll come out in the wash, won't it? Okay, let's have a look at it was all set for the trial starting next week, and now suddenly he wants a plea deal. He's talking, there's a plea deal being discussed. Let's have a look.
Stearns' trial is set to begin on Tuesday of next week, but we've learned about talk of a possible plea agreement. Good evening, I'm Greg Warmoth.
And I'm Martha Stigowski. Channel 9 Eyewitness News investigative reporter Shannon Butler has been busy working her sources all day long in this story. Shannon, what have you learned?
Well, sources have told me that a plea deal is now being discussed and could happen as early as Monday afternoon. That would mean life in prison for Stephan Stearns on those sexual battery charges and on the possession of child porn. Now, sources have...
So, he's going to prison forever, whatever happens, isn't he? He could have took a chance and gone for a trial, but because they were trying to get the actual videos and what have you not admissible in court, but that failed. He could not be found not guilty. He couldn't be found not guilty because all that was on his phone. So he had no chance. So he's going for the plea deal, which will be life in prison without parole, but not the death penalty. That's what he's choosing. I wonder what his mum and dad think about it, because of course his mum and dad are his biggest supporters. They think it was all Jen's fault, or they used to think it was all Jen's fault. It wasn't Jen's fault. It's his fault. It's his fault. Jen has got a responsibility, as I say, to play in not realising what was going on, but she'll suffer for that for the rest of her life and the loss of her daughter. He's the one who did whatever to Madeline. There's no evidence that Jen participated in any way, because if she did, she would be under arrest by now.
Told me that those discussions have been underway for a few days and that at least some of the relatives of Madeline Soto would be on board with this decision. Stearns is accused of not only raping the 13-year-old, but also of her murder. It would not be only Stearns, but the state attorney that would have to agree not to take this case to trial. That trial could mean the death penalty for Stephan Stearns. Now, Stearns is scheduled to go to trial on Tuesday, but a plea would keep the family from a lengthy and very graphic court proceeding. Now, we are also told that could mean a plea for that murder case, too. Nothing has been scheduled online yet for that hearing, but we have reached out to the state attorney's office and to his attorney for information. We have not yet heard back. Now, just so everyone is clear, anything could change before that deal is done. It has to be signed. That's how it works with these possible plea deals. Still a lot to come here, Greg.
So, yeah. Let's have a look at another news video about it. Let's see. Had a few. I think, everybody's been trying to preview the case, including me. That's what I was going to be doing today. But of course, now that he's, going to do a plea deal, let's have a look. I think this is going to go the way of Brian Kohberger, to be honest, because I think he's going to plead guilty just because he has no choice. He has no choice.
Breaking news in the world of true crime. What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. It is a show that never sleeps. There is breaking news in the world of true crime. It is late Friday evening, July 18th, and Stephan Stearns, who is about to stand trial for sexual crimes against 13-year-old Maddie Soto, and then set to stand trial again in the fall for her murder. Well, he has now decided, according to local reports, to take a plea deal, and he is expected to plead guilty to both the sex charges as well as the murder charge against 13-year-old Madeline Soto. If you'll recall, she was a student at Hunters Creek Elementary and did not show up to school on February 26th of 2024 last year. And a couple of days later, Stephan Stearns was arrested, and there is a Mount Everest high mountain of evidence against him, and that is likely why he has decided to take this plea deal. It is going to happen live.
He's taking the plea deal because he's guilty, and it's obvious he's guilty.
On Monday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Surviving the Survivor is going to bring it to you. I'm going to be on a flight to Boise for Brian Kohberger's sentencing, but we'll have someone step in and kind of break it down for you step by step. Also, we're hearing that there will be victim impact statements the same day, which is a little unusual on Monday, but expect Stephan Stearns now to plead guilty to both the sex charges and the murder of Madeline.
What, he's going to plead guilty to both now? I didn't know that. Oh, he's going to plead guilty to both, according to this guy. Well, we'll see. Victim impact statements already. Oh, my God.
Madeline Soto, justice coming here. There's still questions about the mother. We'll see how that all plays out in the future. But for now, Stephan Stearns set to plead guilty. Again, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday. STS will bring it to you live. Let's think about Maddie tonight. Love you, America.
Yeah, we're all thinking about Maddie at the moment, that's for sure. Now, I didn't realise that he was going to plead guilty to both. I thought he was going to plead guilty to this. Let's have a look what these have got to say.
We're learning this evening that Stephan Stearns, the man accused of sexually abusing and murdering a Florida teen, Madeline Soto, has a new hearing as we're on the heels of a trial starting next week in Kissimmee, Florida. He now has a plea hearing that has been added to the books. This has just happened within the last hour or so. That hearing is in regards to the sex crimes case, not the murder case. So to break it all down for us, we have joining us WFTV reporter Giovanni.
Now, she's saying it's the sex thing and not the murder case. But that guy that was on before said it was for the murder case as well. So who knows? Who knows?
Giovanni Diaz here from Orlando with us to share the latest. Giovanni, thanks so much for hopping on with us. Tell us what you know about this latest filing.
Hey there, thanks for having me. Yeah, we actually are still working to get more details about this plea deal that it's now officially been scheduled for Monday. That is one day before his trial was supposed to start here. As we know, Stephan Stearns faces 60 charges related to sex crime. Those charges are related to files that were found in his phone the day after Madeline Soto, that 13-year-old girl, she disappeared. And then those files were very graphic images that depicted Madeline Soto and in sexual environments involving this man, according to all the details that we obtained from the police department responsible for arresting him at the time. Now, we understand that this plea deal will also include the murder trial that was expected to start in September. He is facing first-degree charges for the death of Madeline Soto. This happened just days after Madeline Soto's body was found here in this area. We are actually on the way back to where her body was recovered because we are still working to get more details about this case.
Oh, yeah, so he just said it may concern the murder thing. So, oh, my God, he's going to plead guilty to all of it. Is he? And then the victim impact statements. Will Jen give a victim impact statement? I think Jen might. Honestly, I think. Now, nobody knows anything about Jen, do they, since this all happened? Since the interviews that we've watched and things, we don't know. And it'd be interesting to see Jen now, wouldn't it, after all this time? How is she coping? You know, I honestly do not think Jen did anything, but apart from the fact she was bloody useless in protecting Madeline. But I don't think she actually abused Madeline. I don't think so in a million years. So we'll see what happens.
And still trying to talk with the community here. I spoke earlier today with an attorney, with a criminal attorney, defense attorney, who was explaining to me that basically what this means is the defense team for Stephan Stearns was able to actually get him off death row. So he will be able to actually...
So this was the interview. You know, we watched the video of him being humiliated, though, as I say, didn't see his button mushroom. I've seen it's disgusting. He's the hairiest man, you know, he doesn't know about depilation. Oh, for fuck's sake. You know, Stephan, sort yourself. No wonder Jen didn't want to have sex with you. No wonder you could only have sex with people that were unconscious, whether it be Madeline or anyone. I mean, he's revolting. And what he did to Madeline was disgusting because he made her participate in sex acts with him. And he's disgusting. You just wouldn't want to touch him. You know, he's just horrible. Ugh. You know, as a grown woman, you wouldn't want to. Never mind a little girl like that. It's terrible. Terrible, terrible what he did. But I am going to show it. I am going to show that whole video on members, maybe. You know, and I'm not going to worry about his private parts. Let everyone see what a bottom mushroom he's got.
This is according to our sources here at Channel 9, WFTV. He was able to actually get off the death row and he is going to end up spending the rest of his life in prison. Again, this hearing is set to start at 1:30 on Monday, one day before his actual trial was supposed to start for the sex crimes, and months before his first-degree murder trial was supposed to begin. I was in the courtroom multiple times during this case, and there were several motions that were filed by his defense team. They were trying to pull some of the files that were found in his phone. They tried to suppress those files as evidence. They wanted to remove that from the case. They wanted to get the press outside. They didn't want to have any journalists in the courtroom. All of those motions were tried, but the judge ahead of this case ended up dismissing those motions.
Yeah, Giovanna, there were so many things where we expected that we were going to have this trial next week. We have been gearing up here at Court TV. I appreciate you jumping on with us in the middle of your reporting on this breaking news, because this is huge. And I want to clarify for our viewers and for those of us who are still getting this information in, this plea hearing is not just, am I understanding you correctly, not just for the sex crimes case, but it is also going to involve the other trial. These are two separate cases, the murder of Madeline Soto case and also the sex crimes and child pornography that is related to what was found on Stephan Stearns' phone. You're saying that you're hearing that this plea is going to involve both of those cases.
Wow.
That's correct. And that was the whole point, because they wanted to avoid a very aggressive trial, because again, I was in the courtroom. It's in the initial of this question here for the sex trial, for the sex crimes involving Stephan Stearns, and I heard from the judge explaining that they knew that it would be even difficult to find folks to be in the jury, because it was a case that really shattered this community here in Central Florida. So a lot of people had already opinions about this case, and they knew that would be a very challenging trial to proceed with. So they wanted, and that is my understanding from our sources here, is that the defense team wanted to avoid a trial altogether, because it will be very hard to not get the maximal penalty for him in this case, and maximal sentence for him, I should say, in this case, because again, this was a case that left this community here really concerned and on edge. I spoke with the mother of Madeline Soto actually as this case happened back last year. I spoke with her on the phone, because at that time we were treating this case as a missing persons case, right? So I actually spoke with her on the phone, and she was very in shock about everything that was happening, and that this case so quickly evolved in a way that everyone across Central Florida, lots of people in this community here, they know about this case. They have opinions about this case, because it was just very shocking. And at each development, at each phase of this story was very concerning for all of us here in this area.
Yeah, this would have been tough to find a jury that would not have a prejudice against this man. But Giovanni Diaz, thank you so much. WFTV.
Yeah, the thing about Stephan Stearns is that although people might, there might be controversy about Jen, everyone universally thinks that Stephan Stearns is a twonk, is a complete twonk. So there's a definite agreement over that, because sometimes in true crime, we do disagree, because we have our opinions, just like everybody does, about, who's guilty, who's not guilty, etc. But I think with Stephan Stearns, definitely everybody is in agreement. He's a total asshole. Where people might be not sure about Jen. Some people will think she was involved. Some people will think she wasn't. At the end of the day, with Stephan, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer with Stephan, is it? So interesting stuff. So I will keep you in touch with it, of course. We'll be watching that on Monday, whatever time it's on. It's probably American time, I don't know, but I will make sure that I bring you updates on that. He's going to plead guilty, isn't he? He's going to plead guilty to all of it. What do you think? Do you think that's a good thing, that he's going to plead guilty? Or do you think he should have been hauled through the coals, if you like? I personally think it's a good thing, because I don't want to see, or I wouldn't see it, but, you know, Madeline's videos of her in that compromising position, etc. By her, they'd be like on public, and they'd find their way on social media and be a public. It's better that they're not made public. You know, poor Madeline, she suffered enough. She shouldn't be paraded in front of the world like that. But anyway, we'll see. Please let me know what you think in comments. Please like, please subscribe. I'm going to finish off with a little tribute video that I've got for Madeline that I've played a few times. Yeah, this little girl, and she's a little girl. She probably didn't think she, you know what 13-year-olds are like. She probably didn't think she was a little girl. And, you know, whatever this relationship was, it wasn't a relationship. Thing is, a lot of abused people, children especially, they do think they're in a relationship. I wonder if at some point, you know, she didn't really realise what was happening with Stephan and she thought of him as a boyfriend, or, you know, because sometimes that happens as well. And then as she got older, when she turned 13, did she turn around to him and say, no, I know this isn't right? Did she stand up to him for the first time? And he couldn't accept. You know, there's various reasons. My biggest sort of question is, why did he kill Madeline? Because he was enjoying Madeline. You know, he had no reason to kill her unless she suddenly started saying to him, I'm not doing this anymore. Or was she pregnant? That was, of course, another a thing, though, that I think, according to the forensics and everything, she was not pregnant. But then you get other rumours that she was. You know, it's like that. But at the end of the day, Madeline, she was a little girl when she came across this twonk. And she had a miserable life from there, really, didn't she? And then it ended up with her being murdered. And why did he murder her? Anyway, it's all going to come out, I suppose. So I'm going to play you a little tribute video to Madeline. It's just heartbreaking, isn't it? Let me know what you think, as always, in comments. And please don't forget to like, to subscribe, and, you know, for updates on this case and the others that we're covering. Thank you. Thank you for caring about Madeline. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, as always, may your God go with you.